Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the National World War II Museum as we honor those who fought and died at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. I'm Pete Crane, Vice President of Education and Access here at the National World War II Museum. And I want to thank you for joining us on the 84th anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the date which will live in infamy. Today we remember the thousands of Americans who tragically lost their lives while also paying tribute to the World War II generation who defended our country and helped secure peace and democracy. I'd like to thank the Marine Forces Reserve Brass Quintet under the direction of Sergeant Davis for their pre-ceremony performance. You guys are always amazing. And it's been a busy one for them because they had an amazing performance just last night. So they're coming out early for us doing double duty. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as the Navy Color Guard presents our nation's colors and the Victory Bells perform the national anthem. March. Colors. Detail. Halt. Present. Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Shoulder, arms. Ready, two. Right, face. Forward, march. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to start by recognizing a tradition here at the National World War II Museum, and I'm honored to be able to say that we have one with us today. I'd like to recognize all World War II veterans, home front workers, or Holocaust survivors joining us in person or virtually, and of course we have one with us today. If you are a World War II veteran, please stand or wave to be recognized. Mr. Ettinger is right here. I would also like to recognize all other veterans and active duty military and their immediate family members who supported them, making their service to us possible. If you are in attendance today, if you ever wore the uniform of our nation or supported them as an immediate family member, please stand or wave to be recognized. Thank you. And I would also like to recognize our any Board of Trustees members or our Patriot Circle members who are with us here today. And I know we have a number, so thank you for joining us. My challenge today is to provide context for the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. By your simple presence here today, it's safe to assume that most of you know the basics of the attack. You know the iconic sounds and the images that have come to define that day. The images taken by Japanese pilots flying over Battleship Row, the capsized USS Oklahoma, with men still living trapped inside of it. The US flag floating in oily water. And of course, the image of the USS Arizona shrouded in flame and smoke. And of course, ringing in our ears is one of the greatest speeches ever delivered by an American president, Franklin Roosevelt's Day of Infamy speech. All of them have come to be iconic pieces of American history. But what new images or stories convey the terror, the confusion, and the pain of that day? Let's go to Schofield Barracks, where the 25th Infantry Division had just been formed not even 2 months previously. You know, when a commander is away, so usually at nights and on weekends, there is always an officer, the staff duty officer or the officer of the day, and some sergeant known as the CQ or the charge of quarters to keep a presence in the headquarters and deal with minor incidents that happen and make inspections to make sure, because the U.S. military never shuts down. The best day to have that duty is Sunday, because all of the young soldiers and sailors and Marines who are going to get into trouble do so on Friday and Saturday nights, so you don't have to deal with going down to bail them out. So on Sunday, if you take staff duty officer, you report, you clean up the headquarters like the sergeant major wants it cleaned, you conduct your checks, and if you're lucky, you get to listen to the game. And best of all, you get Monday off. And that's what the men who showed up for duty at the 25th Infantry Division headquarters on that morning thought as they took the post less than an hour later. What you see on the screen here is the staff duty log, the diary that they kept that day. Every staff duty officer keeps the duty log. And what you see as the very first entry, 0800, Wheeler Field bombed. Let that sink in. Also at 0800, Colonel Burgess called for information, Wheeler Field bombed. Major Smith called for information, Wheeler Field bombed. Colonel Myers called for information, Wheeler Field bombed. General Brush called for information, Wheeler Field bombed by 8:03. What you see is leaders who are grappling with the confusion. They don't know what's happening, and they're trying to wrap their head around it. By 8:15, all units are ordered to keep their men in the barracks until further notice. They don't know what to do or how to react yet, but the first thing we need to do is get our soldiers together. And within 10 more minutes, they ordered everyone to pull out all the small arms for the purpose of firing on attacking aircraft. Then orders to the artillery, draw ammunition. They're thinking that maybe this is just a prelude to the invasion of the Hawaiian Islands to take it away from the Americans. Department notified of a raid on Wheeler Field by about 40 aircraft. Here they are coming again. Alert number 3. What you're seeing is leaders trying to grapple with chaos with confusion. The world around them is exploding, and they have to take action now. This log goes on for more than 20 pages. And by the fourth page, you start seeing false information coming in. Reports of Japanese paratroopers dropping on the Hawaiian Islands. And these reports are very specific, describing a uniform, a green coverall with a red dot on the chest. Well, obviously, somebody who reports something that specific has to have actually seen it but themselves. You have to take action. So now they're ordering people to go and respond to Japanese paratroopers that 84 years later we know were not there. And shortly thereafter, there are reports of Japanese troop ships right off the island. We have to defend the beaches, get the soldiers out on the beaches and set up a defense in depth to react to an invasion that 84 years later we know the Japanese were not doing. But at that time, they thought this was real. That was the reality. Less than an hour before, men who thought that all they were going to be doing was cleaning the headquarters, doing some security inspections, and hopefully listening to the game, were embroiled in World War II. The 25th Infantry Division unfortunately lost soldiers that day, and it went on to serve on Guadalcanal and also in Leyte. Thousands more from the 25th Infantry Division would die that day and throughout that war that came along. That was the legacy of Pearl Harbor. So, today we remember them. We remember the brave fallen and those that fell afterwards. And we thank them for standing on guard for us and freeing us from a world that would have been filled with tyranny. So today, to remember those brave fallen, I would like to welcome World War II veteran and Navy veteran Hugh Ettinger to the stage to ring this bell 24 times, each time signifying 100 of those brave souls lost in the surprise attack. Hugh Ettinger was born in 1926 in Watertown, New York, a good Army town, by the way. His father worked as a civil engineer, and they lived on Long Island. Initially wanting to join the Marines, Ettinger ended up testing into the V-12 program with the Navy. He served as a seaman first class aboard LST, or Landing Ship Tank, 1108. He and the crew delivered equipment to Saipan and Okinawa and were in Manila when the atomic bomb was dropped. Saved from participating in the invasion of Japan, Ettinger aboard the LST delivered Korean slaves back to Korea. They also helped relocate natives living on the Bikini Atoll for Operation Crossroads. He used the GI Bill and returned to Dartmouth, majoring in economics. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ettinger, and stand now as we listen to the 24 chimes of the bell, and join us in a moment of silence following that. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, please join me in welcoming Ms. Fern Sumter Winbush, the Principal Deputy Director for the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, to the stage to share some remarks about this historic day. In support of the Director of the DPAA, she is responsible for leading the agency in formulating policy, overseeing business development, and increasing outreach initiatives to achieve the agency's goal of providing families and the nation with the fullest possible accounting of our missing personnel from all past conflicts. Ms. Winbush hails from Boston, Massachusetts, where she was a 1989 honor graduate of the University of Massachusetts and a distinguished military graduate of Suffolk University's Reserve Officer Training Corps. She began her military career in the reserves in 1983, and her service continued upon her transfer to the Massachusetts Army National Guard until her active duty appointments as a military intelligence second lieutenant in 1990. Over the next 25 years, she held numerous positions of increased responsibility in Germany, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Korea, and the Netherlands, culminating in a deployment to Operation Enduring Freedom in Kabul, Afghanistan, subsequently as the commander of Joint Base Meyer-Henderson Hall in Arlington, Virginia. She retired from the Army after 31 years of military service in January of 2015. Her awards and decorations include the Legion of Merit with 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal with 6 Oak Leaf Clusters, the Army Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Achievement Medal with an Oak Leaf Cluster, and the Army Achievement Medal. Welcome, Ms. Sumter Winbush.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Colonel, for that kind introduction. Welcome to our World War II veteran. Not many of you left, and so it's always awesome to be in your presence, the greatest generation. Dr. Bell and the World War II Museum team, thank you so much for everything you do, not just for DPAA, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute, but also for our nation. It is a huge honor of mine to be a part of this commemorative ceremony today as we look back at the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. The terror, devastation, and loss suffered by so many that day as Japanese planes launched a surprise attack, plunged the United States into war, and changed American lives forever. At DPAA, we recount these stories every single day as we research, investigate, recover, and identify the remains of so many who died that day and whose remains were never recovered. Our endless pursuit of providing answers to the families takes DPAA teams around the world to battlefields, cemeteries, archives, and former POW campsites where we follow the leads we developed from our research and, of course, discover new ones. At our agency, we embrace the vision that leverages and broadens our ability to improve and produce the past conflict personnel accounting results that the nation and the families expect. Our values are straightforward. We anchor our efforts on a strong commitment to teamwork and innovation, and we continue to expand and challenge the limits of what is possible scientifically, while maintaining the highest standards of integrity and competence in our laboratory and field work. Our incredibly talented team of 700 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Department of War civilians, and contractors humbly serve the past conflict personnel accounting mission. We are the embodiment of the warrior ethos to never leave a fallen comrade. We are tireless promise keepers of the families of the missing and also to those who continue to serve today. That should something happen to you once hostilities cease, there is an agency that not only knows your story, but we will come for you if you're not recovered. Our mission garners a lot of attention and inquiry, which we continue to openly respond to. The families of the fallen deserve answers, even if we can't recover their loved ones. So 4 times a year, we meet with them to discuss our progress and efforts to account for their loved ones. These family member engagements are an important and valued opportunity to inform, educate, and explain how DPAA answers the nation's call to account for those who are still missing. Our mission is both global and generational, and with over 81,000 still unaccounted for from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Cold War, and with more than 39,000 of that 81,000 that we believe we can actually recover, this is a daunting task. World War II losses make up the preponderance of our missing, with more than 71,000 still unaccounted for. Fortunately, our efforts are widely seen as humanitarian around the world, and we have maintained strong relationships with our host nation partners. Even our foreign enemies can relate to our desire and our dogged determination to get answer for families and to find and return our fallen Americans. In fact, a couple of our host nation partners have assisted with recovery operations, especially when we couldn't travel during the COVID-19 pandemic. And for that, we remain extremely grateful. We've made significant progress in fiscal year 2025. It is our banner year, actually, for the number of missions we conducted and the number of first-time accounted for. More specifically, we achieved 231 first-time accountings, and of that 231, 165 were World War II, 58 were from the Korean War, and 8 were from the Vietnam War. Our organic partner and host nation teams, augmented by the armed services, deployed to sites in the Indo-Pacific and Europe-Mediterranean regions to conduct 150 investigation and recovery missions, as well as disinterment operations to recover and identify Americans buried as unknowns in U.S. and foreign-controlled cemeteries. Most notably, since the establishment of DPAA in 2015, we have made 1,799 first-time accountings. The number of identifications we report and the numbers that I talk to you about today are important, not because of the number itself, but because, think about this, this is the number of families who will finally get a call that they've been waiting for generations. The Vietnam War is the agency's operational priority, with just over 1,500 Americans still missing. As with all conflicts, time is perhaps the greatest threat. However, in Southeast Asia, the soil is highly acidic and it's eating away at the remains. So this highly corrosive environment, combined with the destructive nature of the high-speed aircraft crashes from that period, and when you factor in the rainy season, land preservation efforts, economic development, and diminishing witnesses, in most instances, the remains that we are getting out of Southeast Asia can fit in the palm of your hand. Although the Vietnam War continues to be the agency's operational priority, we are aggressively working on World War II cases from various battlefields and cemeteries in the Indo-Pacific and Europe-Mediterranean regions. As a result, the identifications we make from conducting disinterment of remains from ship losses interred at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, or the Punch Bowl, in Hawaii and from other World War II cemeteries around the world routinely lead the numbers of accounted for each year. This is largely because our research efforts and the supporting evidence must be strong before we are authorized to conduct a disinterment of an unknown. Whereas with the Vietnam War casualties, none of these individuals are buried as unknowns. Our World War II accounting effort is strong, and in November, this November, we announced the identification of Army Technician 5th grade Daniel White, 39, of New Orleans. In the summer of 1944, Wyatt was assigned to Company E, 364th Engineer General Service Regiment, Army Corps of Engineers. On July 7th, he was one of 8 service members killed in Normandy by an explosion that partially caved in the concrete roof of a captured enemy bunker that his team was working on clearing. In October of 2021, the landowner actually contacted us, telling us that he had discovered in that bunker what he thought to be human remains, as well as 2 identification dog tags. Of course, we were extremely excited. In 2023, after conducting interviews and surveying the site, we recovered Wyatt's remains, identified him, and he will be returned to his family. Wyatt's name is recorded on the walls of the Missing at Normandy American Cemetery in France, and a rosette will be placed by his name to indicate that he has been identified. With more than 71,000 unaccounted for from World War II, and with forensic science being our main method of accounting, to do more, we must rely upon external partners with the expertise and the same measure of dogged determination that we possess to exponentially increase our research and recovery operations. All of our work begins with research, and the National World War II Museum has been one of our most dedicated and productive partners. When the agency established our Hub and Spoke research program, the museum was the first non-university institution to sign an agreement with us to help us expand our research. Your fellows have helped advance the past conflict personnel accounting mission through case-specific and foundational research by working with our partnerships and innovation team and our researchers and historians across our agency. Most recently, your fellows worked on a critical project for us during the 43-day government shutdown, which we're so happy is in the rearview mirror. This project involved writing case summaries in support of our upcoming family member update in Dover, Delaware, originally scheduled for November. During the shutdown, we were very concerned that we were not going to be prepared to receive the more than 500 family members who had planned to meet us in Delaware in November. Fortunately, those same family members are still planning to meet us next month for a day of informational briefings, which we are now going to be able to do largely because the World War II Museum stepped in when we couldn't work and took over much of that case summary review and development. Now in September, Dr. Erica Landsberg, who I saw earlier, I don't know exactly where she's sitting, there she is, posted a video for National POW MIA Recognition Day, highlighting our mission to recover unaccounted for World War II dead. This video has had over 1,500 views to date, so thank you so much, Dr. Landsberg. Moreover, we also understand that there was a video prepared by the museum about the recovery efforts and identification of Sergeant Frank L. Schmaltz, killed in Saipan, that has received over 250,000 views since being posted just last month. Your outreach contributes to a huge part of our mission, which is to communicate with the multiple generation of family members and the American public. Thank you to the entire World War II Museum team. But there is still a lot of work to do. We are currently working on several projects involving the ships that were moored and destroyed during the attack on Pearl Harbor. That day, across the island of Oahu, close to 2,400 Americans were killed, including both military personnel and civilians, with more than 1,100 wounded. On that day, There were concurrent Japanese attacks against Wake Island and Midway Island, which led to additional casualties. And a Japanese submarine sunk the merchant marine vessel SS Cynthia Olsen on its way to Honolulu from Tacoma, Washington. Our efforts to account for the servicemen of these ships interred at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Hawaii has been tedious, yet successful, with several of our projects already completed or progressing as anticipated. In the 1940s, the American Graves Registration Service led a historic effort to account for as many as possible after the war. However, as you might guess, without DNA technology, there remained more than 1,600 sailors, Marines, and soldiers unaccounted for. Today, we are working to continue the work of our predecessor organization to resolve the cases and identify the remains buried as unknowns at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. Our disinterment of USS Oklahoma remains in 2015, and our success with accounting for all 394 service members marked the start of our pursuit to disinter other groups of Pearl Harbor ships. As a result, our work on the USS West Virginia unknowns, for example, concluded last year, with all accounted for. Currently, we are working to complete the identification of the USS California unknowns, and we are optimistic that this project will be completed in the coming months. The USS Utah has one identification left, which we hope will be resolved soon. There are also non-ship losses of U.S. Army Air Forces unknowns undergoing analysis to identify and return them to their families. As we think about these identifications made from disinterred unknowns, let's take a moment to think about the families. I am certain that many of them thought they would never really find out what happened to their loved one. And then one day, seemingly out of the blue, they get a call from the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, or even the Army, and are told that DPAA has positively identified their uncle, their brother, their great-grandfather, and the generational grief is released. Now, with all of this success, we are often asked, how are we weathering the fiscal year 2026 budget cuts? Well, it's not a good story, I'm afraid. Our fiscal year 2025 appropriation represented the second year of a 5-year budget increase that the Department of War provided for DPAA. And the increase resulted in an expansion of our research, our field work, laboratory operations, and of course, our private partnerships. However, the cuts for fiscal year 2026 will force us to drastically reduce our operations because we still must pay for labor, facilities, utilities, and services, which means that the only discretional part of our budget that exists is our field operations. In real dollars, the cuts will amount to about a 10.5 reduction to our operations budget, which also includes the reduction of our civilian workforce by 26 positions. Instead of the 105 planned field missions for fiscal year 2026, we will only conduct 66. And this will result in a commensurate reduction to the number of accessions into the laboratory and a significant decrease to the number of identifications we will be able to make in the out years. It also means that we have to rely on our partners even more. If you are wondering how we continue to succeed and stay committed, it is because of our exceptional workforce and our partners who represent our nation's very best. We will continue to provide the fullest possible accounting to the families and the nation because of our collective efforts and commitment to never quit, and we won't wait for someone else to do it. For more stories about our efforts to account for Louisianians and other missing Americans, please follow us on our webpage. Just do a simple DPAA search. We're also on social media, Facebook, X, and defense.gov under the Interactive Experiences tab. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Dr. Bell, and thank the World War II Museum team for continuing what we believe to be an invaluable partnership. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Ms. Sumter-Wimbush. As we conclude today's ceremony, thanks to each one of you for joining us for our commemoration of the 84th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. You're welcome to stay as the Marine Forces Reserve Brass Quintet plays a few more pieces, and we look forward to seeing you again here soon at the National World War II Museum. Thank you.